I want to follow up about this armed march against the Jews that is happening in a small town in Montana. It's moving forward. The Daily Stormer, which is an American neo-Nazi, white separatist, white supremacist website, they are planning a march in Whitefish, Montana. This is where alt-right leader Richard Spence's mother lives. Now, Spencer is a white supremacist, and he is a key player in the alt-right. This is supposedly going to be happening next week or maybe the following week. But what's interesting is that even Richard Spencer himself says that the march is sort of a joke. Andrew Anglin, who's the publisher of the Daily Stormer and the organizer of the march, said that Montana has very liberal open carry laws, so that his lawyer is telling him that they can easily march through the center of Whitefish, Montana with high-powered rifles, and he expects about 200 people to participate in the march. The march is going to be, quote, against Jews, Jewish businesses, and everyone who supports either, and they're going to be bussing in skinheads from the Bay Area. There's something funny to me, Pat, about going to the Bay Area to find skinheads to protest Jews in Montana. Doesn't that seem a little weird?
I mean, if there's any, hope for this story, it's that it's getting attention now.
Yeah.
Because I think that could inspire some counter protests. If you remember, after Donald Trump was elected, the KKK scheduled a rally in North Carolina.
Yep.
And they ended up not showing up, having to reschedule it. There were much more counter protests in media than actual KKK members there. So they ended up backing down.
The other angle here also is the FBI confirmed that they're aware of this and they're looking into whether any of this might violate federal law. But if indeed Andrew Anglin is right, of course you're allowed to protest. We know that. And if they are legally carrying firearms, it's going to be tough to do much about it unless you can argue that the group carrying firearms in a particular way is sort of designed to be intimidatory or whatever. I continue to be interested in the writing off of anti-Jewish harassment and hate crimes in the United States. Many people openly say, listen, Jews are doing fine. We don't really need to worry about Jews. But remember that when it comes to religious hate crimes in the U.S., Jews have been and continue to be the most victimized group, right? So not of all hate crimes, but if we look at religious hate crimes, the number one victims, targets of religious hate crimes are Jews. In 2014, for example, about 60% of religiously motivated hate crimes were against Jews, followed by 14%, which were anti-Islamic, far, far behind. Anti-Semitism, I've spoken about it before, increasingly accepted, increasingly minimized. This is a trend that we're seeing. And from a practical standpoint, if you're looking to protest Jews, it's kind of weird to do it in Montana. I mean, I get that Richard Spencer's mother lives there and there's been this whole dust-up about it, but Montana has very little diversity, never mind Jews. In 2015, there were reportedly 6,000 Jews living in the entire state, which is 0.77% of the population, only about a third of the national average Jewish population, which is 2.2%. What's the solution? Ignore it? You suggested maybe you show up with a counter-protest group that's maybe just as heavily armed, although that seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and I don't think it's surprising that they're going to do this in Montana because I think that's where they feel safe because there's plenty of people who look like them who, some of them may have similar opinions. If they were going to go to New York City, they would just be in different waters there.
That's interesting. So on the one hand, you'd say politically it doesn't make sense to protest where there are so few Jews, but in terms of comfort, maybe it makes sense to go where there are so few Jews. I wonder what their thought process is. It seems mostly connected to Richard Spencer's mother being there. Although, again, even he said that the rally is a joke. We'll see if it happens. We'll see what actually transpires. Thanks for watching this video. Before you watch the next one, remember, we're raising money to expand the David Pakman Show Big League, as well as expand progressive activism. Go to davidpakman.com/donate. Donations of any size are much appreciated.